We knew he was one of the baddest martial artists out of here. By the time 1968 had come, Count Dante had defined martial arts in the Midwest.
He was one of the few people that I ever seen break a common house brick with his hands as well as his foot.
John Keehan's comic book ad was a curiosity more than anything.
Couldn't help but like him because of his charisma, his personality, his straightforwardness, you know, but he would cut your throat.
People get the wrong impression about the film itself. They think the film was just about this guy, Count Dante, who was a 1970s era kind of, hairdresser, gangster, pimp, voodoo master kind of, you know what I mean? And that's all true. I mean, it's all true. But what's more important to me about telling stories like this is the history that surrounds it, is the social milieu that it grows out of. I knew it was going to take me at least 2 years because I didn't have any money. I wasn't going to get any money because the subject is so obscure. When I started, I didn't know what the story really was. It had to be about a whole historical period in which martial arts is introduced to American popular culture. But it was karate and then kung fu that really drove this thing. So that John Keehan personifies probably most of the popular cultural icon, martial arts, the mob, Playboy bunnies.
The cape and the cane and the hair, he was a hairstylist and he did this and he did that.
He's everything in this period. He was radical. He was supposed to have taught the Blackstone Rangers and Black Panthers, armed the IRA, armed Castro in Cuba. The mythology around this, man, it's fascinating. See, I'm stumbling into this stuff, right? I didn't know that this is what was going to happen. When I started this project, I was going to do this thing about the dojo war, this crazy guy had all these crazy claims he made. He's just like a iconoclastic character. He's somebody you know, but you really don't know. You know what I mean? It's like you know what he wants you to know.
He was a Superman. He could fight 10 guys with one hand, and he did this and he did that, and he killed this guy. He was part of the mafia.
He made martial arts almost a household word. He was on television. He was on What's My Line, I've Got a Secret, all of this kind of stuff he was doing. But his problem starts when, in 1960, when he opens the doors to his schools and he welcomes everybody.
The police had a very negative attitude about martial arts people. They gave me holy hell trying to open up the school because they really didn't want young kids, especially young black kids, learning how to fight and how to disarm a person, how to use self-defense, because it was looked at it more negative than positive.
John Keehan welcomed black students, Hawaiians, Lithuanians. You know what I mean? When you look at a picture of his school during that period, it's like the United Nations. This isn't what martial arts schools look like. It was what Black Belt called the element that he was teaching. The day that I went to the tournament in 1964, this was like bare knuckles on concrete floors. Teeth flying across the ring and people stopping the match to go look for them. See, these are all things that when I went back and looked at the story of John Keehan, was about sorting out the truth from the fiction. There was so much bullshit around this man's name, It's like, well, if I had never met him when I was 11 years old, I don't think I'd be doing this thing. You know what I mean? Because I would only know him from the dojo war and the world's deadliest fighting secrets.
John and the boys would go out and so often let's test what we're working on, see if it really works. That just wasn't my makeup, my style, and what I wanted to do. They did a lot of drinking. A lot of times they were drunk. And they were in this here thing with this Black Dragon Society, and they got into this fight.
When the fight broke out, everybody was running. When the blood started flowing, everybody was running.
In this one, Jim lost his life. One of the guys lost an eye, and it was a mess.
April 24th, 1970, John Keehan came here. Within 2 minutes of going in, a fight started out. The door burst open, people were coming out. Jim Koncevic came out. He had been stabbed in the neck after being brutalized by other Chinese weapons. He was bleeding from the neck profusely. He fell in the street 20 feet down from the door here and died. John was there when the police showed up, standing over Jim Koncevic's body.
Well, first of all, I didn't believe it. You say, well, is this what martial arts is all about? I think it did a great disservice to the martial arts at that time.
John called, and when your sensei called, even today people have these feudal relationships with their instructors, where they'll do anything, they'll do anything to be. They adhere to this feudalistic philosophy of your loyalty to the teacher and things, and to his detriment, to Jim Koncevic's detriment, he went along with this thing.
I think we need to recognize the past in order to move into the future. John was a man that brought it to this area of the country. He's the person that was somewhat is the dynamic figure. I think that it will aid us to know a little bit about our history and where we all came from. And all of us came from John to a certain degree. John has a lot of grandkids out here. We owe a great deal to John. So I think Floyd is doing us all a great service.
Before he died, before I saw notice that he had died of bleeding ulcers, I saw notice that he had died in Mexico in a death match. And this is something in Black Belt magazine. I said, he died in a death match. I said, here, there. And I was like everybody else, there John goes again, spreading rumors about himself. And I was like, oh my God, another story. What am I going to do with this stuff, When I went and found this grave, I said, well, there's no stone on the grave. He says, well, somebody probably stole it. I said, who wouldn't want Count Dante's gravestone in their house? I said, you got a point. I went back and asked, did you know the stone was stolen? He said, there wasn't ever one put on it. Yeah, it kind of disturbed me because, everybody deserves, some kind of sign of having been here. As you walk through a graveyard, these people, their memories live, and so when you walk through and you see these names and as you just pass through, it's whimsical, but it's human. You wonder about who these people were. You look at the stone, and I'm sitting there going like, but this guy did more than probably most people in the cemetery, you know what I mean? For better or for worse, he had an impact. He has his namesake, Dante the poet, said, he overacted in order to have some effect.
King of the streets, I'm the one to be, but no one can seem to try your mind.